Yellow, the two worlds reside within. This is something that's not really talked about, or when it is, it's placed in a very woo-woo context, and for good reason, it's very hard to understand. But nonetheless, people do see this world, and most women actually see this world. The counter perspective to this understanding that I'm about to share is the autistic engineer. Essentially, someone with a hyper-rational mind, unable to understand the more subtler elements of the human condition, the vibe, the feel that goes into every interaction, the vibe or feel of how a job should be done. Nonetheless, though, this is communicated in everything. When you're teaching someone a technique, you're teaching them to get the right feel, a feel for how it should be done. You show them a method, and if you just try to get them to logically encapsulate and demonstrate a method, what often happens? You get something very crystallized, something very stiff, something that isn't natural. It doesn't have their own body's feel added to it. It doesn't have a flow to it. That's with everything, even with using a knife, even with everything, even with text messages, writing. You can feel someone else's energy. And the weird thing is, with some people, women especially, they can see auras around people and they can kind of gauge their mental attitude based upon that energy, which is why often men with self-fulfilling prophecies of negativity instantly get a no when they're seen. That's just it. This is the hidden world that we try not to share with the masses, because when you understand it, you realize you have a lot more power than you think. You realize reality has a tendency of mirroring back who you are on a very foundational level. Even if you want to look at this logically, step away from the woo-woo. If you treat people nicely, you're more likely to get treated nicely back. So say, for example, someone who has a past trauma. Say it's a woman hurt by men, or a man who has negative experiences with women. What happens when they see them? They feel an innate resentment, which, even if they try to be nice, has a way of funneling through. Maybe they can wear the mask for so long, but eventually over time, it has a way of seeping itself into the other person. And as a result of that, what happens? One way or another, maybe someone with better sensibility to this realm, they feel that and they get negativity back. Their prophecy is reinforced. Self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a very logical understanding if you think about it. But we don't like to look at this world. We don't like to consider it despite it being very rational. Because often, many of us, we just don't have the equipment, or we haven't developed the foundation needed to actually feel this realm. How can you? You're amped up in cortisol, you're always hunched over, and then when anything comes into conflict with that world, of course there's going to be dissonance. But what you notice with men who are typically cooler, women who are typically cooler, or just men who have some degree of mastery in a realm, they've dedicated a large portion of their life to this realm, and as a result, they can just kind of get a feel for this world. For some reason, due to their exposure, they've eventually bridged a gap into this world of feeling, into this world of energy. And as a result of that, they can just kind of they can just kind of feel when something is right or wrong. They can just kind of feel when something is right or wrong due to the level of mastery they've attained. They've developed a sensibility for that realm. And this is weird because it's in everything. It's literally in everything. It's not just people, it's in everything. It's in people swinging a kendo sword. This is something I want to cover more of. The two worlds we reside within. The hyperlogical and, I guess you could say, the spiritual realm, if that's the connotations you want to put into it. But ultimately, They are one and the same. They're just different perspectives looking at the glass either half empty or half full, looking at it through a different lens. They're one and the same because this reality ultimately has very consistent physics. It's very consistent. The rules are very consistent, and as a result of that, of course you can map them out through our human mind and through that process derive reductionist rules that help us better navigate the universe. But we are not those reductionist rules, right? Ultimately, we are not those reductionist rules. It's one way of looking at things. That's what reductionist logic is for. It's one way of looking at things that helps you manipulate reality, and that's very important. But there are other ways of looking at things that are very effective as well. Some of the best chefs you've ever been to, there's an art to it. It's not necessarily a method. They put their soul into it. It's a feeling. It's love. And through that process, through their passion, with the soul moving the brush, they cultivate something magical. And that's it. One's not right and one's not wrong. They're both the same thing, looking at it from different vantage points. And in the case with what I find with women is they're very good at seeing this world. They're very sensitive to it. For some reason, they can see auras very vividly. They can see energy very vividly. And many men can too, depending on how they've been socialized or perhaps due to a genetic predisposition. And the weird thing is, once you open yourself up to this world, it starts to become a little more obvious. It starts to... Your world starts to get weird. That could be confirmation bias, that could be, any number of things. You could logically brush that away as well. But you live once. I implore you to give it a shot. Thank you all for watching. Until next time. I love you guys. Until next time. Peace.